how to install Compass, and we've learned why we should be using it. Now, we'll learn how to create a simple layout. In the Blueprint videos, we created a simple layout using the Blueprint framework. Now, in this video, we're going to modify this code to use the Compass framework, which will remove all of the presentational classes from our code. In a small project like this one, removing the presentational classes is a fairly trivial task. However, in a larger project, using presentational class names can quickly turn your code into a confusing mess, so it's smart to form good coding habits. So first, let's go ahead and switch over to TextMate. And this is the code from the site that we were just looking at. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to copy the body from this file. And if you don't have this code readily available, just check the Blueprint videos and go ahead and download the example files. So we'll go ahead and copy that, and we're going to paste this into the index file of our Compass site. So we'll go ahead and paste that into the body. And now let's go ahead and just switch over to the browser and see what this looks like right now. It already looks fine because we're including Blueprint into the page, but our HTML doesn't look fine because, again, all of the classes that we're using are presentational and not semantic. That's bad. So let's go ahead and fix the HTML first. So we'll switch back to our text editor. And first, I'm going to remove all of the Blueprint classes because we just don't need any of them. I'm going to tighten this up. I'm going to remove the class on our container. And we have a few more spans here that we need to remove. And I think we're almost at the bottom of the page here. Looks like there's just one more, and that's it. Now we're going to go ahead and save this out. Oh, looks like there's one more there. So we'll save this out, and we'll switch back to our browser and refresh. And now that we've removed all of the Blueprint classes, all we have is just some HTML, and there is, of course, the Blueprint typography styling being applied. So we're going to reapply all of these columns, but we're not going to use presentational class names. So let's go ahead and switch back to our HTML again, and let's give all of these divs something more meaningful. So for example, on our container div, I'm going to call that our wrapper because it's sort of wrapping the whole site. And let's go ahead and change these headers while we're at it and give this site more meaning. So we'll change this H1 to say the daily news. And for the second div, we'll call this headlines. And we'll give this H2 the same title, headlines. And let's go ahead and switch back and just refresh the page. There we go. And we'll go ahead and switch back to our text editor here, and we're going to, again, rename some of these headers. We'll call this one Top Stories. And in the div below it, we'll give it the same ID of Top Stories. And if you remember in our previous layout, this was a column within a column. So we'll say more top stories here so we can put these two side by side. And let's just go ahead and refresh the browser, see kind of where we're at in the page. Looks like we have a little bit more here. So we'll switch back again. And we'll call this section something meaningful like politics. And we'll change this header to say the same thing. And you can kind of see how these IDs are very closely matching the content of the page, and that's good. So we'll put this H3 to say the election, and then we have one more div here, and this is the last column in our layout, and we'll make this the technology column. So we'll give that an ID of technology and give it the same header there. And we'll refresh the page, and there we go. We've renamed all of these headers, and we've also given them meaningful IDs, which is the important part. So now let's go ahead and style this using Compass. So we'll go ahead and open our source directory here and open our application.scss file. And first, we need to import Blueprint. And make sure you put that in double quotes. Now you might be thinking, I thought we already included Blueprint. Well, we have Blueprint in our HTML document from the other style sheets. However, you have to remember that we're going to be using mix-ins, and in order for this particular Sass document to take advantage of those grid mix-ins, we need to include the Compass Blueprint module. So first, I'm going to go ahead and style the wrapper. And for the wrapper, I'm going to include the mix-in container, just like that. And so if we switch back to the browser and refresh, you can see that our container is indeed containing a layout. So we'll switch back, and we'll now style the headline section. So first we'll select it, and then we'll include the column mix-in that we talked about in the previous video, and we'll pass it the value 12, so it spans across 12 columns. And we'll also style our top stories and more top stories section, and we can of course nest this inside of headlines because we're using Sass and we're using the SCSS syntax. So we'll select our top stories div, and we'll use the column mix-in again, and we'll have that span 6 columns. And then we're going to do a very similar selection here for our more top stories div. And let's go ahead and switch back to the browser to see how we're doing. Pretty nifty. Now we do have a slight problem here, and what we need to do is get this column back up beside this other one, and to do that we need to add the last class. Now that would be if we were using Blueprint, but because we're using Compass, we just need to pass the value true to this mix-in, and that will tell this particular mix-in that this is the last column. And if we refresh, there we have it. Now we just need to style the politics and technology sections. So we'll go ahead and switch back here, and those are of course outside of headlines. So we'll skip down, and we'll select the politics section, and we'll give that a span 8, and then finally we need to style the technology section. So I'll just copy and paste that there since it's pretty similar. We'll rename that technology. It's going to span 4 columns, and it is the last column, remember, so we need to give that Boolean a value of true. So we'll switch back and refresh the page. And there we have it. We've completely restyled this website using Compass. That covers the basics of Compass. Remember, it's always best to separate structure and presentation, and Compass can help you do just that.